My journey began as a young, naive teenager. It was a summer filled with sunshine, laughter, and innocence, the kind of summer that stays etched in your memory like a beautiful song. I met a boy that season, a charming spark that ignited my heart. We shared fleeting moments of puppy love, filled with stolen glances and whispered secrets. I lost my virginity to him, an experience that felt like a rite of passage at the time, a magical step into adulthood. But like most summer romances, ours was fleeting. When the school year approached, my mother received a transfer that took us far away, and he too was uprooted to live with his mother in another state. We were separated by distance, but not by heart, or so I thought. During those early days of separation, we talked on the phone every day. The conversations felt like lifelines, a connection that bridged the miles between us. However, as the weeks turned into months, the reality of our situation began to sink in. He was moving on with his life, and I was being pulled in different directions, navigating the challenges of high school and a new environment. Then came the devastating news I was pregnant. It was a shock that sent my life spiraling in an unexpected direction. After confiding in my mother, I made the heart-wrenching decision to put the baby up for adoption. I knew it was the right thing to do, but it felt like I was giving away a part of myself. My boyfriend understood, expressing pride in my bravery, and we continued to share our lives through letters. For 8 years, we exchanged heartfelt correspondence that became our escape from the world. Our letters painted a picture of love and connection, but they were often unrealistic, shaped by our longing for a relationship we had never fully experienced. As time passed, I began to notice a change in him. The boy I had once known transformed into a shadow of himself. After moving in with his mother, he fell into a deep depression. He began to hang around a bad crowd, dabbling in drugs as a way to escape his pain. I remember the last time we spoke before everything took a turn for the worse. He sounded distant and lost, his laughter replaced by silence. It broke my heart to witness his downward spiral from afar. Tragedy struck when his best friend committed suicide. The shock of the event shattered him, leading him deeper into addiction. Eventually, he overdosed on cocaine and was sent to juvenile detention. In those dark times, our communication dwindled. I wrote to him as often as I could, pouring my heart into each letter, but I could feel the distance growing. He was trapped in a world of chaos, while I was trying to navigate my own life. When I had the baby, I was consumed by guilt and regret. The decision weighed heavily on me. I wanted him to be part of my life, but I knew that was impossible given the circumstances. I tried to remain close through our letters, sharing my life and experiences, but he was caught in a vicious cycle of addiction and trouble. It felt as though the boy I once knew had vanished, leaving only a hollow shell behind. Despite the pain, I moved forward with my life. I joined the army, seeking structure and purpose. In the military, I grew up quickly, learning the importance of discipline and resilience. It was during this time that I met my now husband, a man who brought a sense of stability and love into my life that I had longed for. After a few months of dating, I found myself speaking to my old boyfriend over the phone again. It was a strange mix of nostalgia and sadness. He told me during that conversation that he was gay and back in jail. I didn't know how to feel about this revelation. I had already started to outgrow him, and hearing about his struggles confirmed that the idealized future I had built in my mind was just that, an illusion. As I moved forward with my new life, I gradually lost contact with him. I wasn't trying to cut him out intentionally. It just happened as I became more invested in my husband and building a life together. Years passed, and I thought I had left that chapter behind. Then, one fateful night, curiosity got the best of me. My husband was away on business, and I found myself bored, scrolling through the internet. In a moment of impulse, I Googled my old boyfriend's name. The search yielded shocking results. He had committed suicide while in prison. The news hit me like a freight train, leaving me breathless and in tears. I rushed to tell my husband the next day, but his response was less than comforting. I understood his discomfort. This was a painful piece of my past that had suddenly resurfaced. Life continued, but the weight of my old boyfriend's death lingered. About 2 years later, I received a friend request on Facebook from his mother. Talking to her reopened old wounds, as she wanted to share memories of her son and discuss the baby I had given up. She pushed for information about my child, and I felt trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. She sent me his last drawings, his suicide letter, and details from his case files, which only dredged up feelings of guilt and regret. The connection with her felt bittersweet. On one hand, she was grieving for her son, and I could empathize with her pain. On the other, her need for closure brought back feelings I thought I had buried. Our conversations stirred a deep sadness within me, pushing me into a dark place filled with what-ifs and lingering guilt over the choices I had made. My husband grew increasingly worried about my involvement with her. The tension escalated to a point where we fought about it. I insisted that I cared about her as family and didn't want to dismiss the significance of my past. He felt insecure and worried that I still had feelings for my old boyfriend, which I assured him was not the case. But that didn't stop the distance from growing between us. In a desperate bid for control, my husband installed a keylogger on my computer without my knowledge. He discovered my heartfelt messages to my old boyfriend's mother, in which I admitted how much I had loved him and described him as my soulmate. When he confronted me about it, I was stunned. I didn't deny it, but I tried to explain the context of those feelings, emphasizing that they were remnants of a time long gone. I had moved on, but the wounds were still fresh. The revelation shattered the trust between us. I could feel my husband's walls going up, the warmth and affection we once shared replaced by tension and distance. I understood his feelings, but it felt unfair that my past could haunt our present. I tried to reassure him repeatedly that he was my soulmate, the love of my life, and that I had no desire to rekindle anything with my old boyfriend. As the days turned into weeks, I felt an emptiness in our relationship. My husband no longer treated me with the same love and care, despite his claims of love. I realized I had to take action to heal this rift that had formed between us. I removed all remnants of my old boyfriend from our home, including the suicide letter and any mementos I had kept over the years. It was time to lay the past to rest. As I reflected on my relationship with my husband and the turbulence we had endured, I recognized the pattern of immaturity that had characterized my connection with my old boyfriend. It was romanticized and unrealistic, fueled by a nostalgia that clouded my judgment. I began to see my relationship with my husband in a new light. The love we shared was grounded in reality, filled with shared experiences, growth, and genuine support. I also started to draw parallels between my husband's son, who was becoming a teenager, and my past. I watched as he navigated his own emotional landscape, forming connections and experiencing the awkwardness of first crushes. It put everything into perspective, reminding me of how much I had romanticized my first love. My old relationship had been a mere shadow compared to the depth of love and companionship I now shared with my husband. Even as I moved on, I wanted to help my husband heal from the wounds of my past. I wanted him to understand that he was my everything, and that no one else could take that place. I planned ways to reconnect with him, to rebuild the trust we had lost. I wanted to prove that I was fully invested in our future, free from the shadows of my past. To mend our relationship, I focused on open communication. I shared my thoughts and feelings, striving to be as transparent as possible. I encouraged my husband to express his worries and fears, creating a safe space for both of us to be vulnerable. We discussed the things that had changed and the emotional distance that had crept in between us. Slowly, he began to open up, sharing his fears and insecurities. I listened, validating his feelings while reiterating my commitment to our relationship. I emphasized how much I loved him, how he was my soulmate, and the person I wanted to grow old with. We began to engage in activities that reminded us of our love and connection: date nights, shared hobbies, and heartfelt conversations that rekindled the spark between us. I made it a priority to express my love for him daily, reminding him of all the reasons I chose him. Over time, we worked together to rebuild the trust,